The views expressed on this program are those of the producers and individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Sun Prairie Media Center staff, its video service providers, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Hello there, and welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jamison Rabbit, and this week, spoiler alert, there's a movie coming up, but this week I am so excited because I've got a special guest that I've been trying to get on for 10 years. You know her, you love her. It's Mara Trusty. Mara, welcome to the show.
Well, to be honest, I have been avoiding this role for
I
the
know
past
this.
10 years.
So you've heard Mara's name multiple times on the show because she is the director of this show for almost the entirety of this run. And I've been asking to get you on for, 5, 6, 7 years. And finally, you're here.
By the 10th year, I agreed.
Took a little guilt tripping, begging, all that stuff, but I'm so glad you're here.
It is nice sitting here next to you.
All right, I'll take it.
We've worked together for a really long time, and I've enjoyed every single week.
It's been fun.
However, I'm not so sure how you do it because
It's less
it's
stuff to watch.
really time-consuming watching all of these movies.
Yeah, it is.
It really is. Trying to find time to fit it in throughout the week.
Taking notes, trying to gather thoughts. It's a lot of work.
Right.
Yeah. Let's get into what we have on the show this week, though, if you don't mind. And I'm going to get us started with what we have on the marquee first. Our first film is the newest film from writer-director Ethan Coen. It's Drive Away Dolls. This is I think I'd call it a horny queer road trip movie set in the 1990s. Stars Marion, played by Geraldine Viswanathan. She is a very shy, kind of uptight young woman, and her exact opposite roommate, Jamie, played by Margaret Qualley, who's a free spirit, kind of brash and fearless. Both ladies have hit a point in their individual lives where they feel a need to get away for different reasons. Jamie has just been dumped by her girlfriend, Suki, played by Beanie Feldstein, and they decide to travel to Tallahassee, and they're going to use a system of being a drive-away driver, I guess. That's where you take a rental car, right, one way, deliver a rental car to some other destination. They're going to do that. Of course, right away, there's a miscommunication that sets off the chain of events for this film. The rental car place, Curly's, is a front for the mob, and the mob has a car going to Tallahassee with very important cargo. And they are sending two goons to pick that car up. But of course, the girls walk in and say they're going to Tallahassee, and away they go in that vehicle. So the majority of the film is the girls being chased without knowing they're being chased. They're on an adventure with Jamie looking to find Marion a sexual partner and loosen her up a little bit. Marion very focused on delivering this vehicle. Both of them oblivious to the bumbling goons looking for them. And the goons are the classic big guy, little guy combo. That we've seen in other movies, where the little guy pushes the big guy around, and it's just a road trip movie. Emphasis on the trip part for a good chunk of it, and there's some odd cameos in here. You have Matt Damon and Miley Cyrus showing up in a really weird cameo that took me a little while to understand what it was, Their part of the plot was really confusing until Coleman Domingo, who plays the chief, kind of explains it all, and it's kind of hilarious and absurd. But everything kind of happens in this movie in parts of America that aren't glamorous. There's a lot of dirty, dingy hotels and bars and what have you on the way to Tallahassee. And I don't know, this movie felt kind of familiar to me. It felt like I've seen another version of this. But you and I went to see this together. I couldn't judge your thoughts on it walking out. You had a good poker face. What did you think of Drive Away Dolls?
I couldn't judge your thoughts either. I didn't want to ask. I didn't want to find out until today. But yes, I think we've seen this movie before.
Yeah.
A few times before, maybe.
Yeah.
It's a pretty standard storyline. But first of all, what was up with those psychedelic transitions?
Yeah, it was weird. So I actually had to do a little research afterwards to understand the Miley Cyrus of it all.
I didn't get it.
So
it didn't work for me.
I had to look at the cast listing. She is Tiffany Plastercaster, who
Ah, yes.
Was making the things in the case.
I got it after like, you know,
but it seemed like really, I don't know. Yeah, those transitions they seemed like they didn't fit the movie to me. I don't know.
It didn't fit. Somehow psychedelic scenes worked in The Big Lebowski, but just not here.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's a really good cast. Like the movie opens with Pedro Pascal as the guy who has this case, and he's like, peace out of that movie within a couple minutes.
Yeah.
You have Matt Damon who's in it, and I don't know, his whole plot just felt like weird, and this film felt like a little light for me. You know, previous movies with the Coen brothers as a duo, they had a lot of absurdity like this one, but there was depth to the absurdity, and this one felt like it was kind of surface level. I don't know. It felt like a knockoff of a Coen brothers film to me.
It felt really played out. I did have a giggle here and there.
Yeah.
Some of the lines were pretty good. I enjoyed Jamie's character. She did a great job.
Yeah, she's great. Margaret Qualley was awesome.
And Marion or Mary or whatever, her partner on this road trip. Both of them were great together, but just not really good enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's familiar tropes and a lot of familiar characters. You know, the goons, the little guy played by Joey Slotnick. Like, I like their back and forth, but it does feel like, okay, I've seen this a bunch of times with two guys. One's the big bumbling guy, and they don't get along. And I also like Beanie Feldstein as Suki. I would have loved to see more of her in this movie because I thought that every time she popped up, she had a lot to say. I laughed in a few parts there. I enjoyed some of these performances, like you say. But leading up to it, I was actually really excited. Like at the beginning of the year, we did our most anticipated episode, and this was one of my honorable mentions because it's a Coen brother. I like the cast; it looks fun, and it just felt like kind of a knockoff of a Coen brothers movie made by one of the Coen brothers. And I don't know.
Yeah, they've done this movie before.
Yeah. So I'm curious what you ended up giving Driveway Dolls.
So I was pretty disappointed by this movie.
Okay.
I gave this movie 1 star.
Holy crap. That's pretty rough.
I think the only thing that I really enjoyed about this movie was Jamie and Mary, their relationship, their, conversations in the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 is rough. I originally thought maybe a little bit higher, but as the week went on and today I came in and I said, Margie, we got to change that score.
We settled down into a 1, huh?
We're going down to a 1. So this movie, I think there's a lot of shock value.
Yeah.
It's overplayed. There really wasn't much there for me.
I can understand why you would give it the 1. I gave it a little higher. I had fun with it. I don't think the adventure was all anything special.
No.
I think the laughs just came in awkward and kind of shocking circumstances. I like the girls quite a bit together, and I gave it 3 stars.
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's good.
That from you.
Yeah, but I also had big expectations for this movie.
Oh.
So I was actually let down. And still gave it a decent score. But,
Sure.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to what else we have on the marquee. What do you have for us, ma'am?
So the next movie that we watched, we're talking about Ordinary Angels.
Yes.
This is a true story featuring Hilary Swank as Sharon. She's a pissed off hairdresser with a drinking problem. And I don't really recognize the rest of the cast.
The dad, Ed, is he's the star of the Reacher series.
Reacher?
Yeah, like the Jack Reacher series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's a star of that.
All right. There's also 2 daughters, one of which has a rare medical problem. They have a grandmother, and then Sharon has a hairdresser friend. And then the rest of the cast includes a very supportive community.
Yeah.
And you kind of know you're in for it when the movie starts out with a birth and a death within the first 2 minutes.
Yeah, that was shocking because within the first minute we had the time jump 5 years later.
Right.
A little whiplash on that.
And then it cuts to Sharon. She's struggling with an alcohol addiction, and while she's at the store picking up some bottles, she sees an article about a 5-year-old whose mother had just recently died, and she is now dying and desperately needs a liver transplant. The dad has 2 daughters, and they're going through really hard times. There's a large amount of debt from the medical bills from the death of the mother, and then the daughter needing blood transfusions every so
Lots
often.
of medication, yeah.
And every time she needs a blood transfusion, it seems to coincide with some crazy weather, like a tornado, a lot of rain.
Yep.
And Sharon is really taken in by the story. So she thinks she can help. She tells herself she needs to help. This is something she wants to do, and to help her get through like these addictions that she has. So Sharon crashes the mom's funeral.
Yeah.
And just walks in and meets the mom, the 2 daughters. She doesn't come off very well. She had just been drinking. She's very disheveled.
Kind of a mess.
And yeah, total mess. But keeps trying and doesn't let go.
Yeah.
So that's the story.
Yeah, this is a kind of a faith-based movie. Not heavy-handed in that.
No,
which
not at all.
Is interesting. At the start of this movie, like the way you say it started off with a death and a birth right away, I was like, oh, okay, this is weird. And then like it jumps 5 years immediately, and I'm like, what's going on? My head was kind of spinning. I'm trying to figure it out, and I was kind of skeptical of this movie at the start, but found myself enjoying it. I like Alan Ritchson, who plays the dad, Ed. You know, he's the proud man who's struggling to keep it all together with these children and mourning his wife. And proud men like him struggle to ask for or accept help. And that's very obvious throughout most of this movie. He's really struggling with Sharon kind of moving in and taking over his finances and blah, blah, blah. And he
comes out and says it.
Yeah.
He resents Sharon. He resents what's going on. He feels like he needs to be the one fixing all of these problems for his daughter, be the dad there. But he just can't. He's overcome by this debt. There's, his wife's recent death. And the daughter is dying, like clearly dying.
I had questions in the middle of the movie because, Sharon felt called to help them, and she's like throwing everything she has into this, even though she's got her own issues that she's kind of not facing, and is diving into this. And I'm like, why is she doing this? What's driving her other than because she's got a lot of issues, and she's like emptying her savings account, doing everything into it. And then the middle of the movie, they started to really address it about, the message of broken people helping broken people. And kind of the message at the end of it's in the title, Ordinary Angels, that angels don't always come in the way you expect them to, right? It's somebody who's a mess themselves. And I like that. And it's a message of, not having to do things alone when it's tough. And so it gets really heavy-handed near the end, and they take a lot of liberties with the facts. In fact, in the end, it gets really uber dramatic, and it was funny because they show this, as everything comes to a boil, it's all in the middle of the night, in the middle of a blizzard, blah, 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 and whoa, this is crazy. And then in the credits, they show the actual footage, and it's broad daylight, and okay. But I went to see this movie midday on a Wednesday, and this movie got my emotions. And I was not expecting to be so emotional on a midday on a Wednesday watching this movie. But I'm a father of a daughter. This is a movie that deals with a lot of father of daughter issues.
Right.
And it kind of got me. Kind of attacked my emotions. I don't know.
Yeah. Throughout the movie, you're seeing these really troubled people encountering obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, and then the ending. It is very emotional. Yeah. I too was, tearing up a little bit in the theater. Yes, for sure. I mean, everything comes to a head. You really see support coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really what does it there at the end.
And I loved there's some sweet moments between the two younger sisters.
Oh,
I
yeah.
loved those. Like, that kind of got me ugly crying for a minute.
Yes, with
You
the
know,
starfish.
with the starfish,
and-
yeah.
yes.
Like, oh, God, that's so sweet.
The older daughter, you start to see she's, she may live a life without her younger daughter, and she's facing, seeing, her mom die, and then also her sister, her younger sister.
And I like that because I was starting to wonder through a good chunk of the movie, like, the older daughter is kind of just left to the side in this movie. Obviously everything's focused on Michelle, who needs the liver and all that. And I was like, man, they're really just like, the older daughter's just there to be someone to be babysat for the most part. And then kind of towards the end, they started to really bring her in and how it affects her and all that. And I mean, Hilary Swank's a great actress, right? She's won multiple Oscars.
Yeah, she did great.
I mean, she did fun. But I was really surprised by, I thought this was going to be kind of a cheesy,
Oh, for sure. Me too.
faith-based movie. But it's like, okay, you're going to pull the heartstrings, obviously.
I had watched the trailer, and there wasn't really anything in there that I thought, oh, I really want to see this movie. The only part that made me want to kind of see it is, I love movies that have snow. Some kind of crazy blizzard where something's going on, and you really don't get to that until the very end of the movie, where they're faced with the worst blizzard in history,
Right.
43,000 homes without power, and they've got to accomplish
And a
this.
ticking clock.
Right.
Yeah, that's good stuff. What also kind of going into this movie was supposed to have come out last year, and I've seen the trailer for this movie since last July. They're showing it, and then they pulled the movie and pushed it to this year. And I'm like, well, that's not always a great sign when they're about to put it out, and then they're like, oh, we got to do some fixing on this movie. I was like, oh, that means they're not confident in it. But I enjoyed this more than I expected to. I'm curious what you ended up giving this movie then. Is it better than 1?
It's better than 1.
All right, good.
I gave this movie 2.5.
All right.
So it's kind of the standard heartwarming Lifetime movie.
Yeah.
It's got an average story with average acting. But as I was sitting there watching it and saw the trailer and heading into it, I kind of would describe this movie as Erin Brockovich on ice.
I kind of thought that as well. There's a couple of moments with Hilary Swank, like when she's trying to get debt taken care of and blah, blah. I'm like, oh, this feels a little Erin Brockovich-y. I'll say this. Nancy Travis, who plays the grandma in this movie, is probably my least favorite actress ever. And even that, like, I got past that. Like, she showed up, I was like, oh, God, Nancy Travis, I just don't like her. Got past that.
And I would not have recognized her from anything. I mean, the rest of these characters I really didn't know.
I really love Alan Ritchson because I love that Reacher series. I think he's great. And I thought it was, all I've seen him do is snap people's necks in shows. So it's kind of different. He's on a totally different path on this movie. And, if you get me kind of ugly crying in a movie, that's tough. And this one got me. And, man, I'm a softie. I gave this movie 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it. I came home. I was like, gotta hug my daughter.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's go for another movie that, I'm sure it pulled heartstrings. Our streaming spotlight this week comes to us from Netflix. It is the newest film from writer-director Tyler Perry. It's a film called Mea Culpa. Stars Kelly Rowland from Destiny's Child fame as Mia. She is a defense attorney dealing with marital issues. Some of it is stemming from the man she's chosen to defend. In her next trial, he's an artist accused of brutally murdering his wife. This is played by Trevante Rhodes. And he's being prosecuted by Mia's brother-in-law, who is, I feel like there's a complete conflict of interest there. But the judge in this movie is like, yeah, that's great. Let's go with it. Her husband and her family are upset that she won't recuse herself from this trial, but her husband also has his own issues because he's lost his job as an anesthesiologist because he was drinking on the job. He's also got a domineering mother who runs his life, and belittles his wife, Mea, at every opportunity. And Mea finds herself drawn into this dark, mysterious man who she's defending and finds herself falling prey to his advances. And what we end up with is a film that I feel like wants to be an erotic crime thriller, like a Basic Instinct type of movie, but it kind of, for me, turned into a bit of a laughable mess. Man, this movie is 2 hours long, and to me, it felt like it was way longer than that. And I think a lot of it is the script. I think the script was it felt like it was a first draft pass from ChatGPT. And the dialogue was so bad and so cheesy. And some of that dialogue gave me like secondhand embarrassment as I'm watching it. And some of it just felt like I was lost throughout chunks of this movie where I felt like, did I look away and I missed something? And I would rewind it like, no, I didn't miss anything. They missed something, I feel like. And I don't know. I was struggling to stay interested in this movie.
Yeah.
Do you feel differently?
No, I totally agree. It took me 2 nights to watch this movie.
Yeah.
And the second night, I was like, do I need to turn this on? Yeah, I got to watch this. I felt
the same way. I was like, I have to force myself to watch this movie, to stick with this.
I was struggling with this one. Again, this is another movie where I didn't recognize a single actor.
Mm-hmm.
When I looked it up, I thought, oh, okay, Kelly Rowland, the main character, she's from Destiny's Child. All right, whatever. But actor, I think I'm using that word a little liberally here because the acting was not there. It just really wasn't.
And here's the thing, Trevante Rhodes, who played the artist on trial, I think is a great actor. He was one of the leads in Moonlight a few years ago, won Best Picture.
Okay.
And I've seen him in some other films, like Hulu films and stuff, where he makes a mediocre movie good. In this movie, he could not do that. I didn't feel like at all.
There's nothing. There's nothing here. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what they were trying to do with this movie. It gets a little steamy at times. It's clearly a crime drama where the lawyer is kind of fallen for her client, and she keeps coming back, leaving, coming back, leaving.
So stupid.
It gets into this really crazy paint scene, and there's some artist links here. I mean, he's also supposed to be some kind of an artist.
Yeah, world famous artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, I felt like the bad dialogue kind of hamstrung the actors, who some of them, I felt like they were trying. Kelly Rowland, I felt like she got lost in this mess of this movie. And she's not really an actress. She's a singer. And I felt like she kind of got lost. The movie feels like it's missing so much. And I felt like it never leaned into any complexity with the plot or the characters. Like everything was just so flat and shallow to me. Felt like Tyler Perry had watched a few of these erotic thrillers from the 90s. And you're like, I can make one of those. But I don't know. It got funny to me in parts that I'm sure were not meant to be funny because it was so cringy in parts.
Sure. I mean, you make a good point. Like, I don't even really know who Tyler Perry is.
He does all the Medea movies where he's the old lady.
I've never seen a single one of those movies. Have I seen a Tyler Perry movie?
I would guess you haven't. I have seen, thanks to this show, too many Tyler Perry movies. And I don't know. I think he's a great businessman. He's made a ton of movies. He does a lot for the African-American community. I don't think he makes good movies. I think he makes pretty poor movies, and I've had a history of having to watch a bunch of them, and I just feel like that's not his forte, is making quality movies. And characters like the mother-in-law, right? She felt like a cartoon character, I think, of a mother-in-law. Like she's such the evil stepmother type of character.
Sure.
It was ridiculous.
She was over the top, extremely overbearing with her son, who is some kind of mama's boy.
He is some kind of mama's boy for sure.
And then it culminates with this huge family drama in the kitchen. How did you feel about that ending?
That was so stupid. It was so dumb. And at that point, I was pretty much checked out of the movie.
Right.
Like they were not going to redeem it in any way by that point for me. And yeah, I am looking forward to not having to watch any more Tyler Perry movies because I just don't think he has the chops to make a quality movie. And I went back through his filmography, and it's been just a bunch of bad all the way around. But what did you end up giving Mea Culpa?
All right. I gave Mea Culpa a 0.
Yes!
The dialogue is
showing up,
horrible.
throwing zeros. I love it.
The story is just trash.
Uh-huh.
There's a soundtrack that's like blah.
Yeah.
That's bad too. I honestly wish that I could give this movie negative stars.
Nice.
This movie did not stir any emotion in me other than, is this over yet?
I love how you could just come in throwing fastballs right away. 0. Yeah, I gave it 1.5. I mean, it's not good.
1.5? You gave this movie a 1.5?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm giving 3s and 3.5. Yeah, I just gave a 0 last week. I can't give a 0 2 weeks in a row.
Oh, this is the one that deserved it. I don't know what the other one was.
It's not good. Avoid it at all costs.
Yes, avoid this movie. Do not watch it.
All right, we have, I said, well, let's do a movie throwback this week, and you thought about it, and you threw your movie out at me, a movie that I absolutely adore. What are we talking about?
All right, so the movie that I picked this week for the throwback is Fargo from 1996. The reason that I picked this movie is that it not only is one of my favorite movies, but it kind of sums up all of our movies that we had to watch this week. It's a Coen Brothers movie. It's a dark comedy. There's a crime drama here. There's a lot of driving around in snow. And it's also a true story.
Yes, yes.
Starts out saying this is a true story.
We got a couple of bumbling goons in here.
1987. Yes, a couple of 2 hooligans that just can't do anything right.
Yeah.
A big guy, a little guy.
Steve
just
Buscemi's so great.
A couple
in this.
goofballs.
Yeah.
Right. And also I'm from Minnesota, and this movie really makes me feel right at home. Oh my God. It opens up in a blizzard, and I love movies with snow.
Yeah.
Any kind of blizzard movie, I'm gonna love it. And Steve, you immediately meet these 2 hooligans that are just a total disaster. They botch everything up. And then you meet Jerry Lundegaard.
It's so great.
He's so good. The guy who's got all these money problems. He's got some issues. He just, he's got some problems. And then you don't really meet the heroine of the movie until about 30 minutes in.
Yeah.
You meet Marge, and you meet her husband.
Oh, jeez.
Norm. Right. Oh, jeez. And then Jerry Lundegaard's wife. I mean,
yes.
She's amazing.
Right.
Like that accent that she does,
it's
I don't know where
on.
it comes from.
I love it.
Yeah, it's so good. And Marge and Norm, they live in Brainerd. Marge is the sheriff. They wake up to an emergency call in the middle of the night, and Marge has to run out. But first, they have to eat some eggs.
Yeah.
And then right before she's about to go see this triple homicide scene, where she has some morning sickness as well.
Yeah, because she's very pregnant.
Right. It's just a dark comedy with like bizarre circumstances. It gets violent here and there.
Yeah, it does.
This is the movie that is known for the wood chipper.
Yeah, of
with
course.
the leg sticking out of it.
Classic.
Blood all over the snow.
One of the best. Oh, just a classic, iconic movie. I absolutely love it. And every time I watch it, I'm talking like them for like the next couple of days.
Yeah.
Ah, geez, don't you know?
Did you rewatch it this week?
I watched it earlier this week, yes.
Okay, I did too.
I love it. Very good.
I could turn this movie on anytime. This really brings me back to my childhood because I grew up in the cities, and my dad's parents lived north of Fargo, quite a bit north of Fargo. So I took that drive a lot.
Sure.
Back and forth with the snow. You can't see anything in sight.
You're just in the middle of nowhere.
Right, right.
I love that movie. All right, let's take a quick look at what is coming soon, the weekend of March the 8th. We have a few films on the big screen. We have Kung Fu Panda 4. Po and his friends are back for another adventure. We also have Imaginary, about a woman who finds out that her imaginary friend that she left behind when she grew up is very real and very unhappy about being abandoned. We have Love Lies Bleeding, a drug crime adventure starring Kristen Stewart and Anna Baryshnikov, which looks pretty great. Over on Netflix, we have Damsel, about a damsel who agrees to marry a prince, only to find out that she was recruited as a sacrifice for the family. Stars Millie Bobby Brown. And lastly, over on Prime Video, Ricky Stenicki. 3 childhood friends pull a prank, inventing Ricky Stenicki, an imaginary person that they blame everything on. And when they grow up, they find out that he's real, and it's played by John Cena. So there you go. We want to thank our sponsor, Marcus Theaters, the Palace here in Sun Prairie, for sponsoring this program. Mara, I want to thank you more than anything for all these years of doing everything you did here. I talk about you all the time, but you're amazing. This show is all because of you, of what you do in the booth, and I want to thank you for that.
And thank you for being so dedicated, doing this week after week.
Thanking you. You're the best. All right, let's get on out of here. But next week, I'm going to be talking about Dune Part 2, Spaceman. Going to do some Oscar picks and predictions. And, of course, I have Steve Sabaki along for all of that, so make sure you tune in for that. But until next week, I'm Jamison.
And I'm Mara.
Have a great one.